Ancient Egypt, pyramids, pharaohs, mummies. You think you know the story. But what about crocodile dung contraceptives? Lettuce as an aphrodisiac? Baboon police officers? Brain removal through nostrils? The real ancient Egypt was way weirder, way dumber, and infinitely more entertaining than any textbook ever told you. These are 32 facts that sound completely made up but are absolutely real. 1. If you've ever dreamed of dodging work for all eternity, the ancient Egyptians had your back. Rich folks weren't about to spend their afterlife doing manual labor like some celestial peasant. Their genius solution? Getting buried with hundreds, even thousands, of tiny servant statues called shabtis. These weren't cute decorations collecting dust. They were magically enchanted workers programmed for eternal servitude. See, the afterlife paradise still had a to-do list, including farming and digging irrigation ditches, because apparently even heaven needs landscaping. When the gods demanded the deceased get their hands dirty, the dead person could just call upon Shabti number 407 to handle it. Many figurines were inscribed with phrases like, "If I am summoned, you shall answer, here I am." Basically, it's the world's first automated workforce. Immortality plus zero responsibilities? Ancient Egyptians understood the assignment perfectly. 2. Chocolate and oysters? Please. The ancient Egyptians had a much stranger idea of what gets the blood pumping. According to their mythology, the ultimate symbol of fertility and virility was lettuce. Specifically, a tall variety of romaine that oozed a milky white liquid when you sliced it open. The Egyptians looked at that dripping goo and thought, that reminds me of something. And just like that, lettuce became sacred to Min, the god of male potency and reproduction. Nearly every depiction of Min shows him surrounded by these tall, pointy lettuces. Festivals honoring him probably involved eating mountains of the stuff. So the next time you're munching on a garden salad, just remember you might be consuming what ancient Egyptians considered a powerful aphrodisiac blessed by a fertility god. Suddenly, that Caesar salad feels a lot more intimate. 3. Important paperwork requires fancy paper, right? The ancient Egyptians laughed at that notion for everyday business. Sure, papyrus was reserved for sacred religious scrolls and official royal decrees. But for ordinary matters like tax receipts, worker attendance logs, quick legal agreements, personal letters, even rough drafts of literary works, they just grabbed broken pieces of pottery called ostraca, literally shattered pot fragments repurposed as ancient post-it notes. The logic was simple. Pottery shards were free and everywhere, while papyrus cost actual money. Archaeologists have dug up thousands of these scribbled sherds, revealing incredible snapshots of daily Egyptian life. Picture signing your lease agreement on the back of a smashed coffee mug. Thrifty or just hilariously cheap? The answer is definitely yes to both. Recycling champions since 3000 BC. 4. Need to know what tomorrow holds? Forget tarot cards or horoscopes. Ancient Egyptians preferred a messier approach called haruspicy, which is a fancy term for reading the future in animal guts. Appetizing, right? A specialized priest called a haruspex would ritually kill an animal, usually a sheep or bird, then dig around inside its torso like he was searching for car keys. The liver was the star attraction. Its shape, color, any weird spots or unusual textures were all interpreted as divine messages. Good omens meant proceed with confidence. Bad signs meant maybe postpone that military campaign. Picture an Egyptian general preparing for battle, anxiously watching a priest poke around sheep intestines for tactical advice. What does the liver say? Attack or retreat? It's military intelligence via butchery. Try getting that image out of your head at your next barbecue. 5. Your brain is your most precious organ, right? Ancient Egyptians would have laughed in your face. During mummification, that meticulous preservation process meant to prepare bodies for eternity, the brain got absolutely zero respect. Embalmers would insert a long metal hook straight up the corpse's nostril, then stir vigorously until the brain turned into liquid mush. Then they'd simply tip the head and let the gray matter drain out like they were emptying a teapot. Just discarded like garbage. Meanwhile, the heart was sacred, destined to be weighed against a feather during divine judgment. The liver, lungs, stomach, and intestines, carefully extracted and stored in beautiful canopic jars. But the brain? Worthless goop, apparently unnecessary for navigating the afterlife. Next time you have a migraine, at least be grateful nobody is jamming a hook up your nose. 6. Ruling ancient Egypt as a woman required some serious creativity. Hatshepsut, one of history's most successful pharaohs regardless of gender, reigned for over 20 years, launching ambitious building projects and bringing prosperity to the kingdom. But legitimizing her power in a deeply male-dominated society demanded bold moves. Her solution? Getting depicted as a man in official art. We're talking the complete royal package. The traditional short kilt, the ceremonial headdress, and most notably, the iconic braided false beard, the ultimate symbol of pharaonic authority. Elaborate statues and temple carvings show Queen Hatshepsut confidently sporting this strap-on facial hair without a hint of irony. This wasn't about hiding her womanhood. It was brilliant political branding, weaponizing established symbols of kingship to cement her legitimacy, shattering glass ceilings while rocking a fake beard. Absolute legend. 7. Being pharaoh meant having servants for absolutely everything. Scribes, generals, viziers, overseers of this and that, someone managing the royal sandals, another handling the sacred linens, specialists for the king's perfumes and ointments. Given this extreme division of labor and the Egyptian obsession with ritual purity and the king's divine status, even the most basic bodily functions probably had protocols. Some scholars speculate there might have been an official responsible for the royal toilet arrangements, ensuring the king's chamber pot was properly maintained, perhaps even sealed, against evil spirits or potential poisoning attempts. Did someone hold the title of Keeper of the Royal Commode? The evidence is circumstantial, but knowing how granular Egyptian bureaucracy got, it's honestly not that far-fetched. Imagine that job interview. Previous experience? I guarded Pharaoh's bottom. Talk about a crappy position with potentially massive influence. 8. Feeling unwell in ancient Egypt? Your physician might prescribe some genuinely useful treatments, herbal remedies, bandages, maybe even impressively advanced surgery for the time. But never expect purely medical care. The surviving medical papyri reveal that treatments almost always came bundled with magical spells and incantations. Instructions for treating wounds or brewing medicines sat right alongside detailed chants that absolutely had to be recited. Why bother? Because illness wasn't just a physical problem. It was caused by angry gods or malevolent demons invading your body. Treating only the symptoms while ignoring the supernatural root cause would be like bailing water without plugging the hole. So Egyptian medicine was holistic in its own way. Fix the broken bone and banish the demon responsible. Apply this poultice twice daily and invoke Thoth before breakfast. Makes perfect sense if you believe a spirit is literally eating your liver. 9. Animal mummification was massive business in ancient Egypt. Cats, ibises, hawks, crocodiles, even beetles were carefully preserved by the millions. Pilgrims bought these mummies as religious offerings to curry favor with the gods. It was a booming industry, with temples essentially running souvenir shops. But modern technology has exposed an ancient scandal. When scientists started CT scanning these sacred bundles, they discovered widespread fraud. A huge percentage of animal mummies contain barely anything at all. Some hold just a few random bones or feathers. Others are stuffed with reeds, mud, or bits of eggshell. Many are just linen wrapped around more linen, literally selling empty packages. Pilgrims thousands of years ago were paying premium prices for elaborately wrapped nothing. Ancient scam artists were ripping off the faithful long before internet fraud existed. Humanity's grifting instincts are apparently timeless. 10. Let's discuss ancient Egyptian contraception and prepare yourself because it gets wild. Around 1500 BC, cutting-edge birth control technology involved crocodile dung. Yes, actual reptile feces. Medical texts describe women using pessaries, which are insertable barriers, made from a lovely mixture of crocodile droppings, sour milk, and sometimes honey or fermented dough. The presumed theory was that this aromatic paste would physically block conception. Or perhaps the sheer disgust factor would simply kill any romantic momentum entirely. Did it actually work? Extremely doubtful. Was it hygienic? Absolutely not. Let's not even pretend. Can you imagine that bedroom conversation? Darling, just give me a moment to prepare this reptile excrement situation. Strangely, modern scientists haven't exactly rushed to test this ancient method. Some medical mysteries are probably best left unsolved. 11. Hair loss. Anxiety isn't a modern phenomenon. Ancient Egyptians desperately sought solutions too, and their remedies were absolutely unhinged. One popular baldness cure from the Ebers Papyrus reads like a nightmare grocery list. You needed to gather the fats of a hippopotamus, a crocodile, a tomcat, a snake, and an ibex. Then you boiled this zoo of grease together, creating what must have been an unholy stench capable of clearing entire neighborhoods. Finally, you slathered this multi-animal fat mixture all over your bald scalp. Did hair magically sprout? Almost certainly not. Did people maintain a respectful distance from you? Probably yes. The desperation is honestly relatable, though. You have to genuinely hate baldness to consider smearing hippo-croc-cat snake grease on your head daily. Good luck explaining those pillowcase stains to anyone. 12. Egyptian cat worship went far beyond casual pet appreciation. Bastet, the feline goddess, commanded enormous devotion, and harming cats had severe consequences. Killing a cat, even by complete accident, could be punishable by death. Imagine accidentally running over a cat with your chariot and facing execution. Entire mobs would riot if a foreigner ignorantly killed one. Roman soldiers learned this lesson the hard way. When a beloved household cat died naturally, the grieving family entered a formal mourning period. Their visible sign of sorrow? Shaving off their eyebrows completely. Not just shedding a few tears, but full eyebrow removal as a grief statement. This level of feline devotion makes modern cat enthusiasts look positively casual. Your neighbor with 12 cats and a cat mom bumper sticker has nothing on ancient Egyptians. They were operating on an entirely different level of cat obsession. 13. This fact is less about ancient Egyptian weirdness and more about how Europeans got extremely weird with ancient Egypt. For centuries, from the Renaissance through the 1700s, a highly prized medicine called mumia was all the rage. The main ingredient? Ground-up ancient Egyptian mummies, actual pulverized human remains from tombs. People genuinely believed consuming powdered pharaohs and priests could cure everything from headaches to the bubonic plague. The demand became so intense that it fueled a thriving export industry, shipping mummies from Egypt specifically to be crushed into questionable medicine. Both authentic and fake mummies were traded for this purpose. Wealthy Europeans were essentially practicing accidental cannibalism as a health fad, swallowing bits of ancient corpses hoping to cure their ailments. Let that concept settle in your mind for a moment. History gets disturbingly creative. 14. The Egyptians were brilliant astronomers and engineers. They built pyramids aligned with stars and monuments that still astound us. Yet their everyday calendar had one persistently annoying flaw. They used a 365-day solar calendar, which was impressively accurate. But they never properly implemented a leap year correction like we use today. What's the problem? That missing quarter day annually accumulates over time. After several decades and centuries, their calendar slowly drifted away from actual seasons. Imagine celebrating the annual Nile Flood Festival when the river wasn't scheduled to rise for another month. Or planting crops during what the calendar called harvest season. Agricultural schedules, religious festivals, administrative planning, everything gradually became misaligned with celestial reality. It took centuries for things to cycle back around. Long-term planning nightmare. Suddenly complaining about daylight saving time adjustments feels pretty petty, doesn't it? 15. Ancient Egyptian parties had a distinctive, greasy approach to staying fragrant all evening. Forget subtle perfume application. Wealthy guests at banquets wore cone-shaped lumps perched on their elaborate wigs or shaved heads. These weren't decorative hats. They were solid cones made from perfumed fat or wax, probably animal tallow, blended with aromatic oils like myrrh. Here's where it gets gloriously messy. As the evening progressed and temperatures rose from dancing and general Egyptian heat, these cones gradually melted. The perfumed grease would slowly trickle down through the wearer's hair, across their face, and onto their clothing, creating a continuous fragrant cascade. Practical? Questionable at best. Hygienic? Definitely not by any modern standard. But apparently, if you wanted to be the sweetest-smelling, greasiest person at the party, slowly basting yourself in perfume fat was considered peak sophistication. 16. Ever grumbled about your paycheck? Consider this. The workers who built the legendary pyramids of Giza received their wages primarily in beer. Not a casual Friday happy hour perk, but their actual compensation. Laborers received several liters daily, roughly a gallon or more. This wasn't fancy craft beer either. It was thick, nutritious, bread-like stuff that provided essential calories and was probably safer than drinking local water. Beer was genuinely sustenance, not just recreation. Imagine the foreman announcing, "Excellent progress this week, everyone. Double beer rations tomorrow." Your entire motivation for hauling massive limestone blocks was essentially liquid bread. It completely redefines the concept of liquid assets. Workers were literally being paid in alcohol to construct monuments that would stand for millennia. Getting buzzed while building wonders of the world? That's an interesting employment package. 17. Before modern pregnancy tests existed, ancient Egyptian women had a surprisingly clever, if unusual, method for detecting pregnancy. The technique involved urinating on two separate bags of seeds daily, one containing barley and the other wheat. If the barley sprouted faster, expect a boy. If the wheat grew quicker, prepare for a girl. If neither germinated at all, no pregnancy. The gender prediction aspect was complete nonsense, basically random guessing with extra steps. But here's the genuinely remarkable part. Modern scientists actually tested this method and discovered that hormones in pregnant women's urine really do promote seed germination about 70% of the time compared to non-pregnant urine. The Egyptians accidentally invented a functional pregnancy test thousands of years before modern medicine. Just ignore the gender prediction claims entirely. Sometimes ancient wisdom stumbles onto something real through completely wrong reasoning. 18. Examine ancient Egyptian banquet artwork closely, and you'll notice elites delicately holding or sniffing beautiful blue water lilies, scientifically called Nymphea caerulea, commonly known as the blue lotus. Seems like innocent floral appreciation, right? Not quite. This plant contains mild psychoactive compounds, specifically apomorphine and nuciferine, which produce calming, euphoric, and slightly hallucinogenic effects. Scholars strongly believe Egyptians soaked these flowers in wine or prepared concentrated tinctures, consuming them during celebrations and religious rituals to achieve altered mental states. Were these sophisticated banquets also ancient parties enhanced by flower-based psychedelics? The artistic evidence strongly suggests more than casual flower sniffing was happening. Relaxation, heightened spirituality, maybe just making the musicians sound incredible? The blue lotus was apparently ancient Egypt's socially acceptable mood enhancer. Getting mildly high at formal events was seemingly just normal Tuesday behavior. 19. Mummification was sacred work, essential for securing passage to the afterlife. But human nature, including its darkest corners, apparently required some disturbing preventive measures, specifically regarding the bodies of beautiful or high-ranking women. There was genuine concern that certain embalmers might behave inappropriately with attractive corpses before preservation began. The official solution to this horrifying problem? Deliberate delay. Bodies of these women weren't immediately delivered to the embalmers. Instead, families would keep them for several days, allowing decomposition to advance until the deceased was presumably less tempting to any potential workplace predators. Absolutely morbid? Without question. Apparently necessary? Tragically, yes. The lengths ancient Egyptians went to prevent post-mortem misconduct reveal some deeply uncomfortable truths about human behavior that transcend any era. Some workplace policies exist for truly disturbing reasons. 20. Egyptian kohl eyeliner served multiple purposes beyond pure aesthetics. That heavy black makeup ringing their eyes wasn't just a fashion statement. It was considered powerful magical armor. The distinctive markings, often extended dramatically toward the temples, were believed to mimic the sacred eye markings of Horus, the falcon god. This design supposedly functioned as a potent shield against the evil eye, those malevolent glares thought to cause misfortune, illness, or injury. The liner also allegedly repelled evil spirits and demons trying to enter through the eyes. Applying makeup every morning wasn't simple vanity. It was essentially strapping on spiritual protection before facing the world. Forget sunglasses or lucky charms. Your best defense against supernatural threats and bad vibes was apparently a thick application of lead-based cosmetics around your eyes. Fashion meeting paranoia in the most practical way possible. 21. Legal disputes in ancient Thebes sometimes bypassed human judges entirely. When divine intervention was needed, Egyptians practiced trial by oracle, essentially asking statues for legal verdicts. A yes or no question, or written options, would be presented to a god's statue, typically carried by priests during religious processions. The assembled crowd would then watch intensely as the priest channeled divine will, making the heavy statue appear to nod forward for yes, backward for no, or lean toward a specific written answer. Genuine supernatural communication, or perhaps some very influential priests subtly guiding several tons of stone toward their preferred outcome. Did Amenhotep steal my prize goat? The statue slowly tilts forward. Guilty, the stone god has delivered judgment. It's essentially a legally binding magic 8-ball with elaborate rituals and zero appeals process. The giant carved head has spoken. Case permanently closed. 22. Ancient Egyptian beauty standards demanded serious commitment, specifically heavy black kohl eyeliner worn by both men and women. Here's the truly bizarre twist. This iconic makeup frequently contained lead salts. Yes, lead, that notoriously toxic heavy metal. Common sense screams this was a terrible idea. But modern research delivered an unexpected plot twist. Some studies suggest these lead compounds, in tiny amounts slowly absorbed through the moist eye environment, might have stimulated nitric oxide production in surrounding skin cells. Nitric oxide boosts immune response against bacterial infections, which was a constant problem in the dusty, insect-filled Nile Valley. Were ancient Egyptians accidentally microdosing poison as primitive preventative medicine while looking absolutely stunning? It's a wild theory, suggesting hazardous cosmetics might have provided legitimate health benefits. Suffering for beauty potentially had unexpected medical payoffs. 23. History has its disruptors, and Pharaoh Akhenaten was the ancient world's most dramatic revolutionary. This ruler didn't merely make changes. He grabbed everything Egypt held sacred, flipped it upside down, and set it on fire. He abandoned the entire traditional pantheon, hundreds of gods including Ra, Osiris, and Isis, to worship exclusively one deity, Aten, the sun disk. He relocated the capital to an empty desert. And the artwork he commissioned? Absolutely insane. Official portraits depicted him and his family, including the famous Queen Nefertiti, with grotesquely elongated skulls, impossibly thin necks, spindly limbs, rounded bellies, and strangely androgynous features. It looks like aliens designed by a surrealist painter. Genetic condition? Symbolic artistic choice? Nobody knows for certain. After his death, traditional priests went on a destruction spree, smashing his monuments and erasing his name, desperately pretending this bizarre monotheistic episode with the weird-shaped heads never occurred. History's ultimate cancellation. 24. Guard dogs are common throughout history. But guard baboons? Ancient Egypt might have actually employed them. While Egyptologists debate the evidence, certain tomb paintings and textual references suggest Egyptian authorities, possibly market police or crowd controllers, may have used trained baboons to help apprehend criminals or manage unruly gatherings. Picture a thief sprinting through a marketplace clutching stolen goods, only to be cornered not by a uniformed guard, but by a shrieking, sharp-toothed primate absolutely not interested in negotiation. Given how deeply animals were integrated into every aspect of Egyptian society, trained law enforcement primates aren't completely implausible. Imagine explaining that arrest to fellow prisoners. "Yeah, I got caught," by a baboon named after Thoth. Whether completely factual or exaggerated, the concept of ancient monkey cops is delightfully absurd. Some historical possibilities are just too entertaining to dismiss entirely. 25. Need religious justification for heavy drinking? Ancient Egypt provided exactly that through the goddess Hathor. One major myth explained how the ferocious goddess Sekhmet was dispatched to annihilate humanity, but was tricked into consuming enormous quantities of beer dyed red to resemble blood. She became so completely intoxicated that she passed out, inadvertently sparing humankind from extinction. To honor this divine blackout and please Hathor, who sometimes merged with Sekhmet, Egyptians held massive festivals centered on epic alcohol consumption. We're talking religiously mandated, government-sanctioned binge drinking as sacred duty. The goal wasn't a mild buzz. Worshippers aimed for complete drunken ecstasy, losing themselves in music, dance, and total intoxication, all considered proper devotion. Imagine your supervisor announcing mandatory participation in the company drinking festival for spiritual compliance. Some ancient religious obligations were surprisingly enjoyable. 26. Modern justice systems have flaws, but ancient Egypt offered something far more terrifying: trial by crocodile. For the most serious accusations like treason or adultery, especially when divine judgment was demanded, the accused might face a swim across a Nile section notorious for crocodile infestation. The brutal reasoning was simple. Innocent people enjoyed divine protection, so the gods would ensure they reached the opposite bank safely. Guilty parties received no such favor, meaning the crocodiles would deliver the verdict, and dinner arrived simultaneously. Fair legal proceeding? Absolutely not. It was essentially high-stakes gambling where the reptilian house always eventually wins. Your defense literally depended on swimming faster than hungry prehistoric predators could bite. Sink or swim justice, taken to its most horrifying literal extreme, makes modern courtroom drama seem remarkably civilized by comparison. 27. Egyptians famously adored cats, but their animal worship extended far beyond cute felines. They maintained elaborate cults dedicated to specific, individual animals believed to be living gods incarnate. The Apis bull in Memphis was most famous. A particular bull identified by sacred markings, treated like royalty throughout its life, provided its own harem of cows, then mummified in an enormous stone sarcophagus upon death. But bulls weren't alone in receiving divine status. At the city later called Crocodilopolis, yes, that's the actual name, Egyptians worshipped a specific sacred crocodile named Petsuchus. This pampered reptile lived in a temple pond, decorated with gold jewelry, and fed gourmet meals by attending priests. Imagine praying to Steve the bejeweled crocodile for blessings. Taking animal appreciation to strangely terrifying extremes was apparently just normal Egyptian religious practice. 28. What did ancient Egyptians do for fun besides worshipping gods and building monuments? Apparently, they went bowling. Seriously. Archaeologists discovered a room near Cairo, dating back over 3,000 years, that strongly resembles a primitive bowling alley. The site featured carved lanes recessed into the floor and various stone balls of different sizes. The specific rules are lost forever. Maybe bonus points for striking a scarab-shaped pin. Who knows? But the setup is unmistakably bowling adjacent. Picture Thutmose and his friends heading to the local lanes after a grueling day of pyramid construction or hieroglyph carving, ready to roll a few rounds. Did they have special sandals? Did they celebrate strikes and groan at gutter balls? It's wonderfully mundane amid all the golden mysticism. Ancient leisure activities were apparently more relatable than expected. 29. Board games seem harmless enough, just casual entertainment. The ancient Egyptians had Sinet, one of history's oldest and most popular games, played for thousands of years across all social classes. But here's the twist. By the New Kingdom period, Sinet had transformed into something far more serious. It became a symbolic simulation of the treacherous journey through the Duat, the Egyptian underworld. Each square on the board represented a different stage of the afterlife journey. Some spaces brought divine blessings and assistance. Others represented terrifying hazards, divine judgment, or obstacles blocking eternal paradise. Landing on the wrong square meant symbolic spiritual catastrophe. You weren't simply moving pieces around a board. You were ritually gambling with your immortal soul's fate. Just a casual evening activity simulating the voyage through death. No pressure whatsoever playing the game of eternal consequences. 30. Ever been so angry at someone you wanted to destroy something? Ancient Egyptians formalized that impulse into official state-sanctioned magical warfare through execration texts. When pharaoh had enemies, whether threatening kingdoms, rebellious groups, or particularly irritating individuals, their names would be carefully inscribed onto pottery vessels or crude clay figurines. Then priests would perform elaborate ritual cursing ceremonies, formally condemning these targets with divine authority. The spectacular finale involved dramatically smashing the inscribed pottery or snapping the figurines into pieces. This destructive act was believed to magically shatter the enemy's power, health, and possibly their very existence. It's like combining ancient voodoo with incredibly satisfying stress relief therapy. Forget passive-aggressive comments. Imagine the crunchy satisfaction of literally breaking your rivals into fragments with official religious endorsement. Ancient diplomacy had wonderfully dramatic flair. 31. Pharaohs had eccentricities, but Pepi II, who ruled for an extraordinarily long time during the Old Kingdom, took royal demands to absurd extremes. His particular obsession: hating flies. Buzzing insects apparently drove him absolutely crazy. His solution wasn't some primitive fly swatter or clever trap. According to historical accounts, he kept several naked slaves stationed nearby, completely coated head to toe in sticky honey. Their entire job description? Function as living, breathing, extremely adhesive fly magnets, attracting pests away from the royal presence. Imagine the job satisfaction. What do you do for work? I stand naked, covered in bee vomit, hoping flies land on me instead of Pharaoh. Whether this story is completely accurate or ancient gossip that got exaggerated, the mental image alone is unforgettable. Definitely qualifies as a sticky employment situation in every possible interpretation. 32. Ancient Egypt's ultimate final examination determined your entire eternal existence. After death, your heart, considered the center of intelligence and memory, faced judgment on massive scales. On one side sat your heart. On the other, a single ostrich feather representing Ma'at, the goddess of truth and cosmic order. Anubis operated the scales while Thoth recorded the official results. If your heart balanced lightly, proving a righteous life, congratulations. You entered eternal paradise. But if your heart was heavy, weighted down by sins, lies, and general wickedness, absolute disaster awaited. A terrifying monster named Ammit stood ready nearby. This nightmare creature combined a crocodile's head, a lion's torso, and a hippopotamus's hindquarters, essentially everything in Egypt that wanted to eat you merged into one beast. She would immediately devour your sinful heart, and your soul would simply cease to exist forever. No afterlife, no second chances, complete obliteration. Talk about motivation for moral behavior. From beer paychecks to divine crocodile trials, ancient Egyptians were either geniuses, absolute lunatics, or both. Now here's the thing. I genuinely believe the crocodile dung contraceptive is the dumbest medical idea in human history. Prove me wrong. Drop your nomination for the actual dumbest fact in this video. Most upvoted answer gets pinned. Hit subscribe so you don't miss when we expose more historical insanity. And smash that, like, if your brain now has images it can never delete.